Ladies and gentlemen, I am Faria Rashid on behalf of Action in Bangladesh. Welcome you all to the 6th International Water Conference for the first time virtual. This year, the conference will be on water, climate, and justice in the wake of COVID-19 pandemic. This conference aims to go beyond the territorial and disciplinary boundaries, looking into aspects of water and rivers as the key elements toward effective and meaningful actions and solutions to the planetary crisis that is multiplied by the misuse and abuse of water and rivers. ActionAid Bangladesh has been working on pro-poor water justice and people's indigenous rights to the rivers as a continuation of our advocacy for water commons and recognition of rivers as entities. We are hosting the 6th International Water Conference. Today, in the opening session, we have with us Dr. Mujibur Rahman Hauladar, former chairperson, National River Conservation Commission, as the chief guest, Dr. Imtiaz Ahmed, professor, Department of International Relations, University of Dhaka, and Ms. Farah Kabir, country director, Action in Bangladesh. Today, in this conference, specialists from all over the globe and people from all walks of life have joined us through virtual platforms. Before we start the session officially, I would like to start the housekeeping rules with you first. Dear speakers, please turn on your microphone while speaking and please turn it off when you are finished. Please turn on your video when speaking, and for the remaining time, please feel free to keep the video on or off as per your preference. Dear participants, as this is an online conference, your video and microphone are turned off or disabled to avoid sudden disruption during the presentation. Now, I would like to request all participants to turn their video on for 1 minute for a group photo, which will be sent to the press. Dear everyone, can you please turn your video on for a few seconds? Requesting everybody to please turn on everyone's video. We plan to take a group photo to send it to the press. Thank you, everybody. We are done with taking the photo. Thank you. Now, I would like to welcome Ms. Farah Kabir, Country Director, Action in Bangladesh, to deliver her welcome address. Ms. Farah Kabir.
Thank you, Faria. It gives me great pleasure to welcome all of you to the 6th International Conference on Water and Rivers. You know, the usual practice has been to hold this conference in Kuakata, Patuakhali, in the southern parts of Bangladesh, at the Water Museum and other premises within the area. The experience of the journey on the river to Kuakata is an integral part of this event. The Adda with Dr. Aino Nishad, Dr. Imtiaz Ahmed, and many others at close to midnight on the deck of the launch as it ferries us to Borishal, and the singing by my ActionAid Bangladesh colleagues is irreplaceable. But unfortunately, the pandemic calls for a different measure, and therefore we could not take you to Kuakata. But we have tried to design this year's conference differently. Before I tell you more about the conference, I would like to remind all of you that ActionAid is a development organization working on human rights-based approach, and it's rooted in communities. Early on, ActionAid in its journey learned that the communities in Bangladesh learn to cohabitate with rivers. They live and it's part of their life. They have a love and hate relationship with rivers. However, they're constantly challenged because of the lack of understanding and a land-centric approach of the political actors in its development efforts, thereby encroaching on the rights of the rivers. We, along with the communities, are trying to enrich our understanding and emphasize on a pro-poor justice, water democracy, rights of the rivers, and we chose to take as one of our initiatives the Water Museum, establishing it in Kuakata, and the International Conference on Water and Rights of Rivers. Realizing the rights of rivers became an integral part of our research and advocacy that we have undertaken since 2009 or 10. We did set up the Water Museum in Kuakata, the first of its kind in Asia, I believe, to enable communities, particularly students, to learn about the rivers, as well as demystify the politics around water and rivers. I want to draw your attention that right now we see a lot of commodification of water, which is transferring water, especially fresh water, into a commodity. And this has increased significantly, along with the fear of water becoming scarce. Therefore, we must understand the river and the source of water and manage it more efficiently as a resource. The younger generation should be made conscious to ensure safe water for all in future. This problem can only be addressed by educating the young people as well as all of us. So in 2020, the theme of the conference is Water, Climate and Justice in the wake of COVID-19 pandemic. The sixth international conference will be joined by academics, experts and practitioners from around the world, hopefully sharing their experiences. We also hope to share the Water Museum and take you through a virtual experience, and we will host special session on people's lives and rivers with the help of visual photos. The key to protecting human livelihood and health during the outbreak of infectious disease such as COVID-19 reminded us all the need to protect the source of water, respect rivers, and hold up the concept of commons, because we have seen the injustice that prevails. Thus, equitable access to water for ActionAid is a non-negotiable right, just as the rights of the rivers as a living entity. We are pleased that we could arrange this virtual conference, the first global one, and we have designed it so that you get a flavor of what would have happened had you traveled to Kolkata. We have singing, we have artists presenting, we will take you through a virtual visit of the Water Museum, and a lot more. So with these few words, let me welcome you to the conference and to some exciting and memorable experience the next 3 days.
Thank you
Back to
so
you,
much.
Faria.
Thank you so much, Ms. Farakabi, for your speech. Now, let's enjoy the song A Podda, A Meghna to celebrate the rivers of Bangladesh by Ms. Farida Parveen. Ms. Farida Parveen is a renowned Bangladeshi vocal artist and an expert on the mystic poet Lalan Fakir. Let's hear it from Ms. Farida Parveen.
অ্যাকশন এইড বাংলাদেশ আয়োজিত ষষ্ঠ পানি সম্মেলনে অংশগ্রহণকারী সুধীজন, আপনাদের সবার প্রতি রইল আমার আন্তরিক শুভেচ্ছা এবং কৃতজ্ঞতা। এই সম্মেলনে আমার গাওয়া একটি গান আপনাদেরকে নিবেদন করছি। এই সম্মেলনে আরেকটি পর্বে নদী সম্পর্কিত একটি গান আছে, সেই গানটিও আপনারা শুনতে পাবেন। আপনাদেরকে আবারও আমার পক্ষ থেকে কৃতজ্ঞতা জানাচ্ছি।
এই পদ্মা, এই মেঘনা, এই যমুনা সুরমা নদী তটে এই পদ্মা, এই মেঘনা, এই যমুনা সুরমা নদী তটে আমার রাখাল মন গান গেয়ে যায়, আমার রাখাল মন গান গেয়ে যায়। এ আমার দেশ, এ আমার প্রেম, আনন্দ বেদনায় মিলন বিরহ সংকটে, কত আনন্দ বেদনায় মিলন বিরহ সংকটে। এই মধুমতি ধান সিঁড়ি নদীর তীরে নিজেকে হারিয়ে যেন পাই ফিরে ফিরে। এই মধুমতি ধান সিঁড়ি নদীর তীরে নিজেকে হারিয়ে যেন পাই ফিরে ফিরে। এক নীল ঢেউ কবিতার প্রচ্ছদ পটে, আনন্দ বেদনায় মিলন বিরহ সংকটে, কত আনন্দ বেদনায় মিলন বিরহ সংকটে। এই পদ্মা, এই মেঘনা, এই হাজার নদীর অববাহিকায় এখানে রমণী গুলো নদীর মতো, নদীও নারীর মতো কথা কয়। এই অবারিত ভালোবাসার হৃদয়ে ফোটে আনন্দ বেদনায় মিলন বিরহ সংকটে কত আনন্দ বেদনায় মিলন বিরহ সংকটে এই পদ্মা এই মেঘনা এই যমুনা সুরমা নদীর তটে আমার রাখাল মন গান গেয়ে যায় এ আমার দেশ এ আমার প্রেম আনন্দ বেদনায় মিলন বিরহ সংকটে কত আনন্দ বেদনায় মিলন বিরহ সংকটে কত আনন্দ বেদনায় মিলন বিরহ সংকটে
Friends. I'm sure you all enjoyed it as much as I did. Now, I would like to request Dr. Imtiaz Ahmed, Professor, Department of International Relations, University of Dhaka, to make a presentation and launch the book Rights, Rivers, and the Quest of Water Commons, The Case of Bangladesh. Dr. Imtiaz Ahmed, over to you.
Thank you, Faria. Thank you very much. Let me welcome all of you. Shobaike Shubhecha. I understand there is a video clip of the launching, isn't it, Faria? Is there a...
There is an e-launch. There's an e-launch.
Yeah, e-launch. So Tanzil is going to...
No, it's Sharif, can you...
Okay, Sharif, go ahead. Sharif, are you there?
Yes, perhaps you can start saying a few words as
okay. I guess.
Technology.
Oh no, there it is. Okay, go ahead. Yes. Sharif. Well, that's the book. I'm not going to talk about the book today at all. I'm going to talk about the theme of the conference, but just to highlight about the book so that you'd be interested to read the book. Basically, it highlights four things. One, it takes what I would call a social science understanding of water. This is something that myself and hydrologist, my good friend from Nepal, Ajay Dikshit, almost 2 decades back, we, changed the science definition of water, H2O, twice hydrogen plus oxygen, and made it into a social science and called it H2OP4. That is, you have H2O, but you also have P4, that is pollution, power, politics, and profit. This is something you will get in the book, flagged very prominently. The second is I tried to redefine the concept of river, because river and the South Asian word Nodi, they are not same. River is mainly a carrier of water or where the water arrives, whereas Nodi is a very old concept. You can get that in way back in Upanishad, and it has three things. It has Pran, which is life. It has Shakti, which is power, and Atta, which is soul. You need to have three things for a river to be river, or Nodi to be Nodi. That is, you need Pran, you need life, you power, and Shakti, or Pran, Shakti, and Atta. And now that critical hydrologist, and we have Professor Jayanta Bandyopadhyay. If you look, if you read his works, you will get the concept of webs. That is, the four things: water, energy, biodiversity, and sediment, which almost conforms to Pran, Shakti, and Atta. The third thing is the issue of water commons, and that is not only human beings but also river. They have rights. This is also flagged very prominently in the book. And finally, of course, when we talk about rights of humans, humans are multiverse beings. So you need to look into the politics, economics, culture, the gender, the psychology, the ecology, and other things. And that too is flagged in the book. So hope if you can get a copy of the book, you can get a sense of what I'm trying to flag when it comes to water commons and my understanding of water, my understanding of Nodi, all put together, and and using a particular methodology, which I will come back even today as I present my understanding of the theme of this conference, which, as you know, water, climate, and justice in the wake of pandemic. So what I will do, let me start sharing the screen. It will become easy uh, to get a sense of what this conference is all about and what do we intend to, uh, what happened? Oops, sorry. Right, okay. Good. I hope you can all see the slides, isn't it?
Yes.
Yeah, lovely. Good. Thank you. So the theme is water, climate, and justice, as Farah was, she already flagged it in the wake of COVID-19 pandemic. And what I will try to, give a sense of all the concepts together, and as to why we are doing the webinar, why it is webinar, why it is not in Kuakata, and why the global. I can see people from all around the world, and that was the idea. Uh, Wherever I knew that somebody is working on water, I thought, how about bringing all of them? And of course, ActionAid, they have all their contacts. So the idea is to bring the global, given the fact that we are talking about pandemic, at the same time, we need to talk about water, climate, and justice. So the first thing that we have to get our understanding is what is a virus. People have weird idea about virus, and the best way to understand that would be something that Wimmer, Eckhard Wimmer, one of the top-notch virologists, when he was asked, and he's the one who actually has a fantastic work on the polio virus. When he was asked whether viruses are dead or alive, virus jibito na mrityu, and he answered yes, because they can be both. They can be alive, they can be dead. Jibito thakte pare, mritu hote pare. So that was, way of, you can see the mystery that is there in virus. So when we talk about virus, keep in mind that they have this both the inert side, and of course the active side. So a virus may appear inert outside its host, but when it enters the host cell, it becomes alive. And this is something Frank Ryan in his this is also an extraordinary book, Virulation, pointed out, and what an extraordinary life form it turns out to be. For here, the landscape of the host cell once it gets into the host cell, once it's inside a living being, inside us, it can multiply on its own. But keep in mind, not all viruses are bad. There are good viruses. There are viruses which can protect us from other bad virus. And the interesting part of the whole virus thing is it mutates. That's the extraordinary part. It mutates, and it co-evolved with human beings. Just to say, just to give a sense. Well, bacteria mutates also in 1,000 times than beings, and then virus mutates even 1,000 times greater than a bacteria. And that's beside the reason why if you take a drug, it doesn't work after some time. It mutates. And also keep in mind, it may not have one particular area of origin. Just to give you a sense, the Spanish flu, which was a big one, because that mutation was really bad. And in Spain, it was known as French flu. In Poland, it was known as Bolshevik disease. In Brazil, it was known as German virus. So it had all kinds of name, and probably the mutation took place in simultaneously in different places, and no different is COVID-19. We already have some evidence of that there were different areas where it came from. So it may not have one particular area, but then politics, makes it something of that kind. So Spanish flu got stuck, and one of the reasons was Spain at that particular time was neutral country, so it was easy to almost hammer. Get Spain hammered both by UK, US, and of course from this side, from Germany side as well, and so the term got stuck. But keep in mind, Spanish flu, there was no commercial airlines. So people who would say that this is because of globalization and because so many flights during the Spanish flu, which killed much more than up until now, the COVID-19 is no match to Spanish flu. But there was no commercial flights, so it only ships. But then it spread throughout the world. From US to Australia. South Asia suffered immensely. We suffered really badly during the Spanish flu. So this is something that we have to keep in mind as we talk about water, climate, and justice in the wake of COVID-19 pandemic. We can come back if there's time for Q&A on this. Now, what is pandemic? Now, in order to get a sense of pandemic, we need to have some sense of two other words, endemic and epidemic. Well, endemic is something which is in a particular area. It's localized, and the contagious element is not that high, so it can stay where it is. Well, endemic can become epidemic if it goes to areas beyond its known areas, and human transmission. And of course, if the morbidity and mortality is high, it can become endemic, can be transformed into epidemic. And of course, pandemic is when it goes all spreads different continents. So pandemic occurs as when an epidemic spreads to entire countries or regions and becomes multinational and on occasion even global in scope. And that's precisely the reason why WHO took some time to say it's pandemic. As you know, they officially pointed out it's pandemic on 11th March. Now, why would they do that? Why, if we know it's COVID-19, we know it's in December 2019, news was given to them officially by the Chinese authorities. Why 11th March? The reason was WHO was absolutely using all the scientific ways of looking into all these concepts. So by 11th March, it spread throughout the world, and so they declared that it was pandemic and not epidemic or anything else. Three factors are very important. Geographical expansion, you can see the geographical expansion, the human transmission. This is, and it's a global phenomenon. And look at the high morbidity, death. Now, best way to look into COVID-19 impact is by looking into death per million. People look into infection. I don't think that's the right way of doing it, because in developing countries, and it would include Bangladesh as well, not all people are tested. Some people will not even go to the hospital to get tested. So infection will not be the right way of doing it, but per million death. Given the fact that you cannot hide death, death is something that you cannot hide. And if it's hundreds of death, definitely it will be noticed by the reporters, by the media, by the activists, the social activists, and all those people. So you can't really hide death figures. So when you look at the death figures, you can see how badly bulk of them are developed countries which got infected. And I believe the reason is they did not take it seriously, if you tell me. And more importantly, bulk of them were the big countries, particularly US and UK, had, you know, uh, right wing governments which did not believe. I'm sure all of you are familiar with Donald Trump and Boris Johnson's phase one, Boris Johnson, if you can say, because phase two, he has changed after he got himself into COVID. But somehow it was not taken seriously. So, well, USA per million death is number 11 now, and this is yesterday's estimate. But some countries have done really well. If you take Vietnam, if you take Japan, even the infection is high in Japan, but per million death is very low. Singapore also, uh, and of course Australia and New Zealand. Well, New Zealand population is not that much, but if you look at some of the South Korea, for example, per million death is also reasonably low compared to Belgium, compared to UK and Italy, Spain, and other countries. Bangladesh, somehow I would say, so far is lucky. Its per million death is only 49, which is much, much lower than name any developed countries, whether Germany, France. They have all done really bad. Now, there are X number of explanations for that. Some say the strains that we have are different. The mutation is different. Some say because people are exposed to vitamin D, the sunlight, more than in the West. Some say our immunity is better because we are exposed to many more viruses. So other earlier viruses, they can tackle the new virus. Whatever the reason, the best example would be the Rohingya camp, where, as you know, we have 1.1 million Rohingyas, which is higher population than Bhutan. Bhutan is only 800,000 or less than 800,000, and we have 1.1 million. But the number of death so far, always you have to use the word so far, because you never know whether another mutation can take you in a different direction altogether. So if you look at 1.1 million, a small Bhutan that we have, or Bhutan, bigger Bhutan in Bangladesh that we have, and if you take Bangladesh figure, we are reasonably, I would say, we have done a little bit better. But as I said, no one really knows exactly as to why that is the case, and there can be X number of reason. I will definitely probably would agree that sometimes, if you have lots of viruses, and there are a good number of people, and now the World Bank is also working on it to look into this fact, whether if you have other viruses, whether they succeeded in containing the impact of COVID-19. So maybe uh, uh, some blessing in disguise, given the fact that Bangladesh otherwise is polluted and environmentally is not really healthy, but has somehow, when it comes to COVID-19, it has worked in a kind of, it's a miracle. Now, this brings us to the question of how to contain COVID-19 pandemic. And here, water, climate, and justice, you will see there are three things actually you need before the arrival of vaccine to contain, to stop the COVID-19 pandemic: hand wash, face mask, and physical distance. The reason why Vietnam did better, Vietnam does not have a single university in the first 400 in the world ranking, keeping in mind, not a single university. I think 401 is the first university they have in the world ranking. Whereas in the United States and UK, you have all the fantastic universities in the world, which pools a lot of brains. It also pulled Amartya Sen for that matter. But on this, Vietnam has done much better. So you have to question now what education is all about. Is it to, save lives, or is it to make weapons and other things, or make machines of a kind which really doesn't help when something like pandemic takes over? So three things you need: hand wash, face mask, and physical distance. And this is something Vietnam, China, I don't want to mention because China, they have enormous resources. But if look into their way they have dealt, but even Wuhan, which is, is a huge population, three things they really enforced. Well, they have an authoritarian regime. And of course, Vietnam will also, people say it's authoritarian regime. But, and this is where I bring Japan, or Thailand, for example, or Laos, for example. They have done much better because somehow wearing mask is as a cultural issue. I remember in December 2019, yes, 2019, when the COVID-19 started. Well, COVID-19 started, we came to know in January. But in December, I was in Guangzhou, in China, and people were wearing masks, although COVID-19 was not known there. But I was quite, taken aback because almost 8 or 9 months back, if not a year back, I went to Tianjin and also Shandong, and I found in my pictures that people actually were wearing masks even then. You see that in Thailand or in Singapore also. Of course, you also see that in Japan. So uh, face mask, physical distance, and washing hands also. Somehow, I guess culturally, you have some of these countries already inbuilt. So that probably also has helped them. So we will take each of these three things, and in the next 3 days, we will actually talk. We'll talk about water, climate, and justice, but we will talk about hand wash, face mask, and physical distance. This is something what I want to flag in my next 10 minutes or 7 minutes that I have. Hand washing, water, and you need water to hand wash, and you need clean water. There's a good number of cartoons have come up. People, sense of humor is something that went really viral during COVID-19, and that really shows that we will survive. I always say, as Schopenhauer used to say, sense of humor is the only divine quality that humans have. The rest are not divine quality, only sense of it. This is Schopenhauer I'm referring to. Now, humor, when you see humor being flagged, you will know that you will succeed, and particularly in a dire situation. And I can say this also because back in 71, the genocide, and I left my parents, went to Agartala as a child student, as a child soldier. But I remember even there, absolutely in a very dire situation, but people did not lose a sense of humor. And this is no exception. So here you can see a monkey trying to tell the snake. The snake is saying, "I don't have hands," and the monkey is saying, "Wash your tail." And of course, there's no 2020. The fellow was very busy because there was washing hand. Now, when it comes to water, and this you need water, and this is where the things becomes really interesting. My next slide will show, because you have, on the one hand, you have global water scarcity. Don't forget, you can't wash your hands everywhere. In some of the areas where the red, getting water to wash hands again and again, as we do that in Bangladesh now, is a luxury they cannot, they hardly can afford. But look at the pollution also, water pollution. And this is an interesting one. You may have water scarcity here, but you have less pollution here. This is not the red color. Whereas you may have water, water scarcity is less. The yellow one is less, but then you have greater water pollution here. So this is the flip side of scarcity and pollution. So I'm sure those who will be presenting this paper, those who will be presenting papers in next 3 days, would tackle this issue. Uh, the second one is face mask, and here the issue of climate comes very quickly. And this is also an interesting sense of humor you can see with Dr. Fauci trying to say the only life-saving mask is to make Donald Trump wear one. And the fellow who did it, I'm sure, had a really sense of very great sense of humor. Now look at air pollution, the silent killer. It kills 7 million every year. It's so slow it doesn't get noticed. COVID-19 gets flagged mainly because it's so quick. But you have a horrible issue, in Southeast Asia region, over 2 million. Look at the black area. So they may be, and this is the reason why they wear more masks. It makes so sense. You see why mask has come up in this area and not so much here. Why there is so much. I think even day before yesterday, there was a riot in Netherlands, in Amsterdam, in some other cities in Netherlands. They refused the lockdown, but one can see not wearing a mask is something this area can't afford, because And so, if you take a broader picture of the whole politics of wearing mask or the culture of wearing mask, you will see these figures will help you. Now, my next slide is also to do with the climate, and this came only yesterday on the Washington Post, which says Earth is now losing 1.2 trillion tons of ice each year and is going to get worse. But then now we have Joe Biden, so hopefully things will change. But for 4 years, the U.S. had someone who did not, who thought climate change is a hoax. And I'm sure it's not only Donald Trump. There are people also backing him up, saying the same thing. So you see, this is an extraordinary kind of a thing. How climate can be part. Why somebody would refuse to wear the mask? Because if climate change is not something hoax, because if you go to the earlier slide and if you see this one, pretty good. It's not that bad. You refuse to agree with climate change and all, unless and until you start living in this part of the world. And it's very difficult to change human behavior overnight. Now, what the climate did with the COVID-19 lockdown, and this is the two pictures of, one is of New Delhi and one of Venice. Look at Venice, superb. I remember, well, I always tell that no one can take me to Venice second time because it's so dirty. At least when I went, absolutely filthy. And I thought, how can people appreciate such a place? But if the place is like this, and this required the lockdown to make it look at, the clean water, but you don't see that clean water. It's absolutely black. The entire water is black during normal times. But now with the lockdowns, so there's a flip side to the climate change of the slowing down. There's hardly, I don't think there's a serious evidence as yet whether the COVID-19 and climate are related directly. That's the paper that we read now. But one can surely say that with the slowing down of the economy, with the slowing down of people works, environment became better. I think that much we can say. We can't, as I said, virus has its own dharma, virus has its own religion. It will mutate. It used to mutate every 40 years earlier, almost regularly. This time it took almost 80 to 90 years. But in future also it will mutate. Very few get a chance of seeing a serious mutation twice in lifetime. But if you look at earlier mutation of virus and the dangerous one, you will know that this is going to come. Pandemic is going to happen in your lifetime or beyond your lifetime. This is how humans co-evolve with the virus. Keeping aside that, the point that I'm trying to make here is we don't see a direct link between environment, but the environment gets better if there is a slowdown and lockdowns and all. So that I think is something that we need to look into. And of course, you have the social disparity. You have Ambani's mask, Nita Ambani's mask, and you have this young bright fellow's mask as well. And that is something, who wears what kind of mask can also make a difference. And this brings me to the last issue on the issue of justice, and that's physical distancing. I thought the cartoonist here also was extraordinary, I must say, looking into physical distance and coming up with something of this kind. Now, when it comes to physical distancing, it's not that easy, and we have seen really, tough time in some parts of the world. Well, the big one, of course, we saw in the West, particularly in the United States, where Black Lives Matter really got into it. And there are good reasons for that, because you can see when it comes to COVID-19 deaths, the Afro-Americans really, compared to their population, they really got, battered in a greater number than white population. So you can easily see the link. So you can talk about lockdowns and physical distance, if I can use the word physical distance for lockdowns as well, because that is precisely what lockdowns used to, but can everyone afford to? And the question and answer, an easy answer would be no. And it impacts upon differently on different people. And the next slide will tell you when it comes to gender, when it comes to women, women got more affected with the lockdown. More globally, the violence went up. Bangladesh case is a little bit different, to which maybe if there is a Q&A, we can come back to it. But globally, violence really went up. And so you can easily see that here you are asking for physical distance, and that means you stay inside your home, but then that can have other kinds of impact. And of course, the formal and informal sector will not impact upon in similar way. And the developing countries hardly can afford a lockdown, and we have seen in Bangladesh, and this is mainly because bulk of our, in our case, it's 85% plus are informal sector. We have a very small formal sector, and so the economy, bounced back quite. That's because our morbidity was low, mortality was low, and since people came to know that mortality was low, they did not worry. They started working again, and one of the reason I think it relatively, I would say, it bounced back, or it came to a position which a lot of people are now talking about Bangladesh's growth compared to other South Asian countries, and of course the global economy is mainly because I think the informal sector, did not really stop or could not stop. Structurally, it could not stop. They have to survive. It's such a huge. So this time it proved blessing, and of course our agriculture proved blessing, immensely blessing. And I will request, even Action Aid to whether they can think about having a altogether separate discourse on the agriculture itself, because this time agriculture helped us immensely in getting back and in making what Bangladesh is today. So if you look at the developed countries, I think the reason their informal sector is not that big one. But if you look at the developing countries, it's really, really big. Now, my last slide is, okay, fine. We get the issue of water, we get the issue of climate, and we get the issue of justice by way of looking into hand wash, which is water, and of course the mask, the face mask, which is the climate link, and the issue of justice with this thing called looking into the lockdowns and what injustice has been done. So how do we get out of it? This is the last slide. In order to get out of it, and I go back to the South Asian dialectics, which is Prasangika. Some of you probably would know, reading my work, that we need to be very comprehensive when you look into COVID-19. You can't look COVID-19 just from one angle. So in order to get a sense of COVID-19, and I'm sure in the next 3 days we'll be talking about this, the political, the economic, the social, the cultural, the reason why we have Farida Parveen, absolutely, I'm a great fan of her. The reason why we have Farida Parveen is culture is as important as politics and economics. And of course, you can't leave aside, the issue of ecology and psychology. So this is the complex structure that you need to keep in mind in order to address COVID-19 pandemic and how to get out of it. Thank you very much. Let me get out of here.
Thank you so much, Professor Dr. Imtiaz Ahmed, for your informative and humorous presentation. Now, I would like to invite the chief guest of the session, Dr. Mujibur Rahman Hawladar, former chairman, National River Conservation Commission, to deliver his remarks. Dr. Mujibur Rahman Hawladar, the floor is yours.
Assalamu alaikum and good afternoon to everybody. Today's respected to the chair and the honorable presenter, Professor Dr. Imtiaz from Dhaka University, our august guests from different parts of the country as well as from the outside. We really today's first of all, I like to thanks from my own and from the NRCC, National River Conservation Commission, to actionate Bangladesh, especially the country director and the team that she is leading quite for a long time. I had the opportunity, I think the twice people this time had been there in the Tuakata. I had a wonderful experience and I'm very honored that I was invited there and I had the opportunity to be there and to also address the large gathering there. So again, this obviously it has been explained that we are now under very special situation, very pandemic situation that and the impact of pandemic with the relation to the water, ecology, biodiversity, as well as socio-economic culture, and more of the psychological issues have been placed by our honorable presenter in Piers. He has also, you see, just written a book, very interesting also, on rivers. Climate issues is very relevant to that. I will be just reflecting some of the issues taking place practically in Bangladesh as well as in our region, as well with compared to other regions of the world. So if we take that the developed nations and the developing aspect, our Professor Imtiaz already given the comparison with the developing nations, Bhutan, even Thailand, Laos, and even Bangladesh. Obviously, with respect to the pandemic issues, Bangladesh comparatively is a better way, in a better place. I don't know. There should be a specific study on that. What are the reasons behind that? Is Bangladesh a riverine country or the down riparian country, and Bangladesh has more water, so is and more available to the more people? Water is available rather than nations. This is one thing. Secondly, we talk about the issues that Bangladesh by this time has been developed on the issues of water management, river management, as well as the preservation and conservation of the biodiversity. So constitutional provisions have been made there, and later on a couple of laws and rules have been taken place, have been enacted, also have been recommended by the High Court and the Supreme Court. That the government is starting its work for the sustainable development of the river, water management, and the biodiversity. So awareness building campaign already, those are there in the country, but we need to have some, have some special consequences and the adverse impact of the upper riparian. So Bangladesh is a river of, is a country of right now more than 776 rivers that we have accounted. So this time in 2019, we accounted 776 rivers in Bangladesh, and we have measured those through the district administration and the Water Development Board, even the BIWTA. So what I want to say that we need to take care of our water, our life cycle, as well as the environment, and we need to relate it to the sustainable development. And the related issues, the ecological and the open approach, we need to take care of that. Otherwise, the total existence of not only Bangladesh, the total existence of the human being of the world, that might be, the perished. And by this time, due to the very serious impact of this pandemic, COVID-19, the whole I think the world community has been paralyzed, including the economic and the commercial and other economic and cultural life also. It has been paralyzed over the time. So how to prevent and control this and reduce the release of this hazardous multidimensional impact and the aquatic environment already under pressure, because the quality of water is a big issue in the developing nations also, and it is day by day going out of reach of the women community also. In Bangladesh, that we have seen that in the southwestern region, due to the upper riparian cordoning system and cordoning approach, natural flow of the rivers, I think the navigability that has been almost in the lean period destroyed, and that's why the climate change, the impact, adverse impact already it has been I think put forward by IPCC that 1 meter 1 meter, there might be rise in the next over 50 to 60 years in the Bay of Bengal. So salinity, it has gone, you see, the up. And also the other issues like the environment and the I think when we talk about the water, we need to talk about the other living beings. Living beings, as it has been declared by our High Court also and the Supreme Court, that our rivers are living beings. Rivers living beings means it is the storehouse, is the container of water. So, from generation to generations and society to societies, the total existence mainly based on the water. Without water, we can think of our ecology and biodiversity, as well as the plants, the human beings. So, total, the pandemic, it has still, I think, days ahead, if we think about, based on this pandemic, it might be very crucial in the coming years if we do not take care of that, if we do not take the right steps, and you see, if we as a whole, the whole community, we need to work unitedly. We need to work very courageously. We need to work based on some very scientific and technological studies. And we need to go for campaign and people's awareness building activities in the developing country as well as in the developed countries. So these are the issues we need to take care of to save our nation, save our art and our this landscape from the adverse implications. I am very hopeful and optimistic that today's this session, as we are, you see, going to hold now, next 2 days, others will be discussing on these issues. I think it will give a clear message to Bangladesh community, to the nation, as well as the nation builders, the legislators, the governments, authorities, and all the national, international organizations to take more responsible role for the protection and development of the rivers and our ecology, biodiversity as a whole, irrespective of the status of the developing or the developed nations. So we need to talk about, we need to cooperate each other, and we need to, I think, help financially as well as technically. So technical know-how need to be also transferred to those countries who are lacking those technologies for the betterness and for the development as a whole of our planet as a whole. Otherwise, we cannot survive. Safeguarding or the vanguarding, I think this today's session will come up with some of the recommendations and some of the issues that has been placed together will be discussed more elaborately in the later two-day sessions. And I think I find that we, Bangladesh, we should raise our voice so that our regional communities, they come forward and we go for better dialogue and negotiations to save our rivers, for better water management policies, and to come up to and avoid as much as we can, I think, the coordinating system, because coordinating approach is a very detrimental to the water management as well as the development of the and sustainability as a whole. We need to talk about these sort of resources, because these resources obviously we need to take care of. It should be nourished from every quarters. Our legislators should also cooperate with us, and public representative as a whole, they need to come forward to support the authorities. And the main problem also, as you know, in some of the countries, there are some conventions, some international conventions, those are there. Some legislations, every country, they do have some legislations for the better water management and I think the fairness and the equitable distribution of the water. But this is not practically happening. So I think on this very critical aspect and a very, very fundamental aspect, we need to negotiate each other. We need to, I think, work very sincerely, irrespective of caste and creed, and irrespective of religion, ethnicity. Even we need to avoid or eliminate work for quite elimination of the racism, ethnicity. So all this aspect, cultural aspect, we need to also consider that to make a better cultural bondage. I think I need not take much more time to I think to discuss, but climate change issues is a very crucial issues in the South Asian region. If we talk about, as we started with our very patriotic song, Padma Meghna, Jamuna, and Surma. You know that Padma Meghna, Jamuna, these are the three vital river system of the country. GBM, we need to have the, you see, those water flows from the upper riparian down to the Bay of Bengal, and that you see the system, the river system is you see the narrowing down, and that's why we are having more and more disasters like floods, floods, and some other natural calamities also. Those are there. Cyclone is also there. So to avoid those, or to eliminate those, or to make our life very habitable and healthy, we need to work together. So as a whole, the whole community, the world community, we need to work together and help each other. I think mutually, if we cooperate, we can also come at a stage tomorrow. We will be more capable to prevent this sort of more pandemic, tomorrow's more serious pandemic. So this is the time we work together. We make the right policy and strategies, and we need to even think about the alternative approaches and issues. I think I am honored and I have been given much time to talk about. So let's work together in the coming years, so then we can build our better nation and better world for our generations to come. Thank you so much. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Muzibur Rahman Hawladar, for your valuable remarks. I would now again invite Ms. Farah Kabir, Country Director, ActionAid Bangladesh, to deliver the concluding remarks.
Thank you, Faria. I'm sure those who joined us this afternoon did not know what to expect from Professor Imtiaz. And as Professor Imtiaz, being a polymath, he never ceases to surprise us. He's one of those who believes that problems and challenges are part of life, but if we can laugh them off, and that's the art of life. So thank you, Professor Imtiaz, for that brilliant presentation. It's a bit technical, and you did try to elucidate the virus and pandemic and make the connection with climate change and water and justice. And I think the deliberations over the next hours and next 2 days will take us to a space and place where we will have a comprehensive approach, and it will be prashangik. So it needs to be relevant, and we need to come up with some understanding, but also how do we take this forward? So I will not take much time because I am not trying to summarize, but it is the pandemic which has shaken us. We are going through some very different times. Maybe you made references to the Spanish flu, you made references to a time 100 years ago, but our memories from that 100 years may have passed through genetically, but it somehow didn't reach our brain and it's not there. So it's relearning and readjusting. So we will see how best we can continue this conversation and deliberations in terms of keeping a water-centric approach, recognizing the planetary crisis and the importance of understanding and addressing climate justice, as well as all the other dimensions. আমাদের সঙ্গে আমাদের আপারা ভাইরা যারা কমিউনিটি থেকে আছেন, কুয়াকাটা থেকে আছেন, আমি আশা করি যে আপনারা আমাদের ইন্টারপ্রিটেশনের মাধ্যমে কিছু কিছু শুনতে পেরেছেন এবং বুঝতে পেরেছেন। আমি জানি কিছু বিষয় হয়তো বোঝা সহজ ছিল, কিছু বিষয় আমিও বুঝতে পারিনি, কিন্তু জানেনই তো প্রফেসর মানুষ, টিচার মানুষ, ওনারা অনেক কিছু বলে, সেগুলো আবার আমাদেরকে পড়াশোনা করে গিয়ে বুঝতে হবে। I would like to thank Mr. Mujibur Rahman for his time and his valuable words. And you have played an important role in the movement for recognizing the rights of the rivers and also the conservation, and your role in the River Commission. So I hope you will continue to champion these rights and we can work together. Over to you, back to you, Faria. And because we are running out of time. So thank you so much for listening to me.
Thank you, Ms. Farah Kabir, for your short and sweet remarks. With that, we are at the end of the opening session. We will now go for exactly a 17-minute break. We will meet you at the thematic session 1, which is titled as Water Commons, Lessons from COVID-19, at 11:30 UTC and 5:30 p.m. Bangladesh Standard Time. Please follow the Zoom link shared to join or join us on Facebook. We sincerely hope that the conference will be a meaningful and an engaging one for all different stakeholders. Thank you so much for being with us in the opening session. Thank you. We will see you at the thematic session 1 at 5:30 p.m. Bangladesh Standard Time. Thank you.